awesome. As soon as she realized I was talking about her.
Worried about that, right?
This much.
All right, give me 1 second. I have to pull it up on my phone. I could pretend to be really good at this, but I'm going to have to read it. Well, today I have been given the enormous task of talking about the long and wonderful life of my grandmother, Marion Beck. I'm not entirely sure where to start in explaining the unique, kind, and loving woman that she was. Additionally, I'm not sure how to give justice to 95 years of life as I stand here with only 40 under my belt. But in honor of this incredible woman, mother, grandmother, and friend, I'm going to give it my all, so bear with me. Now, many times you will hear people say, she was a woman of few words. This was not my grandma. This is not one of those times. I believe I speak for anyone that knew her when I say that my grandma was a woman of very many words. There was never a stranger that she met, and never a thought in her mind that she kept quiet. She loved people and would talk to anyone about anything. She would share stories of her life, her family, and often her favorite TV shows and movies, even if you didn't really care about them. And even if you were just the server at the restaurant she was at. It didn't matter who you were. She was going to tell you her life story, and she had no problem with it. She loved her neighbors, her community, and anyone who crossed her path. And truly, all I've ever heard people say when they're talking about my grandma is, she was such a nice lady. And I, for one, think that that's a pretty accurate description of the woman that she was. Now, as I say this, I think it's important to note that I am her eldest grandchild. I am the first of 5 that gave her that title, so I may be a little bit biased in my opinion. I mean, let's be real, everybody knows that once a grandchild comes, nobody else matters. So, that grandparent-grandchild relationship, it is a special one, and a pretty spoiled one to boot. So from my point of view, she really was such a nice lady. As grandchildren, we were spoiled with special New Year's Eve sleepovers, Christmas chocolate advent calendars, and basically the freedom to do whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. As an adult, I now realize how incredibly annoying we were in our youth because we would play the same records on repeat, run around her house incessantly, and for those of you that were never there, I need to add that her house was filled with breakable figurines, plates, dolls, and Danish artifacts everywhere. Or we just made her and my grandpa watch reenactment plays that we had created of our favorite Disney movies. But at no point were we told no, and at no point did she really complain about any of it. We would cover, and I mean cover, the house in homemade confetti every New Year's Eve, and we were never told no. We would play McDonald's drive-thru and yell through the vents of the house loudly, and still we weren't told no. The bottom line is, we were insanely loved by our grandmother. So I speak for myself, my brother, and all of my cousins when I say, we all think, she was such a nice lady. But that's who my grandmother was. She was a person who waited on the deck with a cup of coffee and a book when she knew visitors were coming, just so she could be the first to greet you. And the person who stood and waved goodbye to you from that same deck when you left until your car was completely out of sight. She was a person that knew your birthday and insisted, even if you didn't want to, upon taking you out to lunch or dinner to celebrate. Yeah, Dad, I'm talking to you. Most of all, she was the person who made sure to tell you she was proud of you for all of your accomplishments, big or small, and made sure to let you know that you were special. Now I understand that almost all of us had the same relationship with my grandma, being such a nice lady. However, there are 2 people in this room who maybe had slightly different experiences with her. They called her Mom. Where we rarely heard no, they regularly heard no. Can you really blame her? Have you met them? She was responsible for raising 3 rambunctious, sarcastic, and ornery boys. So let's say they got to see her sassy side a little bit more than anybody else. And although at times they may disagree about her being such a nice lady, they would have to admit that she worked hard to give them the best possible childhood they could have. I have heard countless stories of family camping trips and YMCA adventures that she and my grandpa would take them on. She loved to travel and made sure she passed on that love to her children. If you knew her or have looked at any of the pictures over there, you can see that she made sure her boys were able to see the world. But what you may not know is that my grandparents didn't always have a lot of money. So what I've learned over the past week is that my grandma spent countless years working odd jobs and doing secretarial work to save up so that she could take her family on an epic 6-week European vacation, where I might add that those ornery boys may or may not have tricked our, oh, I don't think I want a glass of wine, maybe I do, grandmother into getting pretty wine drunk in Italy. But that's another story. Again, this is my family, who my grandma was, and who my dad and my Uncle Eric's mother was. So as much as they may not want to admit it, I think they also know that she was such a nice lady. But for them, I will add, when they were getting in trouble. So for those of you who need a little background on my grandma Marion was born September 13th, 1928 in Chicago, Illinois, the same year as Mickey Mouse, a fact that she was very proud of and shared with everyone. Another fact she was very proud of was that she was from Chicago. She would tell everyone about it and watch any TV show that was set there, even if she didn't like the show. She could recite facts and useless knowledge for hours about her blessed Chicago. And although she truly loved that city more than any place in the US, her heart belonged in Denmark. She was so proud of her Danish heritage, loved to share stories of how beautiful the country was, and loved to brag to us about, Lego is Danish. But most of all, she would tell us about her wonderful cousins and family members who still lived there. And after reading all of the messages and hearing from so many of our Danish relatives, I think I can speak for them when I say they also agree she was such a nice lady. On a side note, I know that we have some cousins that are watching in Denmark. Thank you for doing that. Please know that all of us can genuinely tell you that there was nothing that would bring a bigger smile to her face than when she was talking about Denmark and all that the country was to her and how much each one of you meant to her. Because for my grandma, family really was everything. She made it her goal to stay connected to as many family members as possible. Even after my grandpa passed, she made sure to stay in contact with all of his relatives because, as she said, they were her family too. I can't say enough how important family was to her, and I believe it was that love of family that led her to what I would call her most favorite pastime, genealogy. For so many years, my grandma, the historian, was determined to know any and everything she could about our family and its history. She would take yearly trips out to Salt Lake City for research, and to the best of our knowledge, speak at her women's club meetings on all of her findings, and often talked about all of the amazing experiences she would have while researching our family. It was her goal to form a complete family tree for every member of our family, and she did just that. We, as her next generations, are so lucky that she had this passion. We now know so much about who we are and where we came from, solely because of my grandma. In fact, we all have personal handmade scrapbooks from her filled with pictures, information of our lineage, and details of our life as a result of her love for genealogy and her love for us. It was something that was so important to her and something that is very special to us. Although I could go on and on all about the adventures my grandma took and tell countless stories, the bottom line is she really was such a nice lady. She loved her family with all her heart and made sure we knew it. When she got older and certain things became more challenging for her, she made sure we knew that we were loved, a fact that wasn't lost on any of us, especially her 5 great-grandchildren. Whether it was her telling them stories of our family, bringing them personalized presents, or playing with them, including sometimes crawling on the floor. Did I mention she was born in 1928? She made sure to let them know that they too were loved. It was so important to her that we all knew she cared. So much so that in her later years, when she could sometimes get sassy, especially to my dad, she never let anyone leave, no matter what, without letting you know that she loved you. She led a full and long life surrounded by so many people that she cared about. She was truly blessed, and so were all of us for getting to be a part of her life. As I speak for our entire family, we loved her immensely and will miss her hugs, her stories, and even her orange lipstick kisses on our cheeks. We all feel lucky that we were able to spend so many years with such a nice lady. There we go.
There's that moment when you realize you don't need to choose one.
So thank you, Stephanie. Have a good day. That's outstanding. I have officiated a lot of funerals. That was lovely, and
Thank you.
it's nice to have experience there. I told Bruce, I told the Golden Child also, but I said I loved your I loved your grandmother, but she didn't raise me. And because as soon as I said I loved your mother, and he's like, So when you think of Marion, I mean, the woman that we ran into was that woman that you described. One of my colleagues, she would always go down the hallway in her walker, all 3'10" of her, however tall she was. And she would always just stop and just wave and then go on her way. I always got a hug. I don't know why he didn't partake in that, because they were pretty good hugs. Although my wife was wondering who I was seeing because I would have orange lipstick. So it was none of her business. But when you think of Marion, what words come to mind? Just shout them out. This is the not rhetorical question, audience participation part, remember?
I already did my part.
Or smile.
Smile, yes.
A very nice lady who's Danish.
There you go.
Lives in Chicago.
Now we got Chicago people here.
Adventurous.
Welcome to Michigan. Now go home. No. Loved your Chicago. Adventurous. You said Chicago and what? And Danish. Yeah, very much. What else?
Scrapbooking.
Scrapbooking. She, cell phones were lost on her in terms of how many photographs you could bore somebody with.
Yeah.
And she always wanted scrapbooks, and it was so nice to see them and wonderful. How many of you from the Senior Women's Club are here?
A lot.
And somebody driving by evidently.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. What else? What other words come to mind?
Camping.
Camping. Oh yeah, a lot of camping.
Trips.
A lot of camping.
Family.
Family.
She was up for anything. If there was something going on, she was in it.
Yeah. She still was that way. She was very involved. Very involved. That's good. Yes.
Valentine's Day, that's the day she was married to her husband. That is true.
Oh.
I
Nice.
forgot to tell you.
But you're good.
Thanks though.
A little late.
I mean, not that you could do anything wrong.
Oh, 'cause I
Bruce,
was
it'd be a
trying-
tragedy, but.
That's because he was never around. He was in the closet.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder. In fact, it was like 6 months before I realized she had this. No, just kidding. What else comes to mind?
Music from the 40s.
Yeah. Music from the 40s.
John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Oh.
Oh, afterwards, you're gonna have to talk to him. Disney.
Photographer.
But yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Photographer.
Right.
The Disney thing, what did Mickey Mouse he just lost his copyright?
Yep.
Yeah.
Steamboat.
Marion couldn't take that. She said, Mickey Mouse didn't have copyright.
I'm out of it.
She liked mysteries like me. She would read books and then we would call each other and go, you gotta read this off.
Oh, nice. Mystery books, yeah.
Reader's Digest.
Yes, so
See, it's this part, right? That we're sharing these things, and you don't realize that she was grandma, she was mom, she was sister, she was friend, she was all of these things, and yet there's these distinct personalities, and yet she had this impact on us that you realize is more universal than you would expect. And it's that love that brings us here today. She had this way of making you not only know that you're loved, but feel seen and feel important. That's that beautiful thing that she could do, is you would feel that it was real and genuine. And that's what brings us in. And that's also the thing that breaks our hearts. And you don't get to be loved like that and love like that without your heart breaking. But then there's going to be those times that just really miss her. And it's not a bad thing. It's just what happens. But I don't think any of us would take those memories away so it wouldn't hurt, because in the midst of our sorrow, we're laughing. We're remembering and we're having joy. But love takes courage. It's not for the faint of heart. It just does. And funerals are hard because it's the end of our hopes and dreams and expectations. Probably had some plans for her birthday. Probably had some things we were looking forward to. We had those things. And we are hope-filled creatures. So then when she took her last breath, hope dies hard. And we grieve. We grieve not just for the life that was lost, but all the unexpressed love. And Andrew Garfield, who's a Spider-Man actor, he was just talking about his mom. He said, I grieve the unexpressed love. And he said, I told her I loved her every day. But there's all this love I wish I could express to her now. Funerals are hard. And then we come into this place with our baggage. That's why the doors are often so big, because we bring our bags packed with the wouldas, shouldas, and couldas. Would have called more, should have called more, could have called more. Whatever it is, would have visited, should have visited. You fill them. As soon as it, hey, grandma died, mom died, whatever. Marion died. Oh, let me pack my bags. It's hard. Because there's things we're never going to be able to see again, things we're never going to be able to hear again, things that we would love to tell her and we can't tell her. Funerals are brutal. And in my job as a chaplain working for God, I know he's a decent boss though.
No.
But there's like, you see the sorrow and you just wish you could help more. And I'm a professional, so don't get all your ideas from country and western songs. But I got an idea from Diamond Rio song, One More Day. And you guys like country and western, don't you? I get something right away. Did that.
Now you gotta sing it.
No. But there's the song One More Day. Could somebody please escort her just?
We're all tone deaf. It's okay.
How often do you get a heckler at a funeral? But it said, last night I had a crazy dream. A wish was granted just for me. It could be for anything. I didn't ask for money or a mansion in Malibu. I simply wished for one more day with you. First thing I'd do is pray for time to crawl. Then I'd unplug the telephone. That's a thing that used to be attached to a wall, and it only had a 6-foot cord for all of you that aren't familiar with that. Like you, young man. You've probably never seen one of them. They were very cool. I'd turn the TV off. I'd hold you every second, say a million I love yous. That's what I'd do with one more day with you. And I thought, if we could just have one more day, we could say all the things we needed to say. We could do all the things we wanted to do. We could make peace. It would still hurt, but we would come in here with less baggage, wouldn't we? Because we got to say it. We got to see it. We got to feel it. And I started thinking, if I could bring her back for one more day, if I could just say, God, it would really help the family if we could bring her back, and if you promised she wouldn't get sassy, bring her back. And what would she say to us? Because I could think it's me that would, or us that would have something to say. And 24 hours would be way too long because I'd be looking at the clock and time doesn't crawl. And even though I can talk really fast, I probably couldn't say everything. But what if just brought her back for 5 minutes? And with her benefit of wisdom and the life that she lived, what would she tell us that was important in those 5 minutes? So I thought about it. I came up with four things. Four things. I'm a chaplain for a reason. One, she would say it now. I love you. I'm proud of you. I believe in you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. She'd say those two are really important. Because you could hold on to that stuff your whole life and not have as full a life as you could. She would say, learn from my life. We just talked. We just heard a wonderful synopsis of an amazing life. And there are so many great things that you learned just from the stories that Stephanie told that people are more important than things. Delicate things, fragile things, things that, however she kept her house, it was more important to celebrate the people with you, whether it's confetti or laughter or same songs on repeat, whatever it is. You learned that people are more important than things. You learned that you can have a distinctive style, and it doesn't distract. It just adds to who you are. The orange lipstick. It's just one of those things.
She'd kiss you.
Be curious. Be adventurous. Be fearless. Now, some of her fearlessness, as Bruce and I, and Eric talked, some of the fearlessness was just a naive sense that everything was good-natured, like the internet guy that was going to help her with her research in Germany or Denmark or wherever it was. Bruce is like, that is not going to happen. I'm like, she did what? It's so cool. It's crazy. But look at all the stuff that you don't do, either because you just haven't thought about it or you just don't have that sense of adventure. It took her places with amazing adventures and amazing stories. Get a hobby, something that you can give yourself to, whether it's photography or genealogy, whatever it is. Those things gave her connections to the world that she wouldn't otherwise have had. So there's a ton we could talk about learning from her life. Without sounding preachy, because I don't think I've sounded preachy so far. In fact, you're going to sit there and say, he's really a chaplain? But she would tell you to know the Good Shepherd. That the Good Shepherd would guide you in life, would restore you when life beats you up, would comfort you and walk with you in dark and scary times. That when life beats you up, would help you to heal, would give you a safe place, and would be with you always. But I think the most important thing, I think she'd want you to know, is to unpack your bags. Because she would say, thank you for an amazing life. You wrote the stories of her life, epic stories of adventure, epic stories of experiences, epic stories of what love looks like in action. You wrote the stories. She told stories about you to other people. If you heard stories about her family, about her kids, about her grandkids, about each other, about what was going on, just raise your hand. You gave her an amazing 95 years of life, even with the sorrows that she had in her life. She would be sad probably that you carried the woulda, shouldas, and couldas in you, because she probably wouldn't change a thing. So she thanks you for being people that loved her and that she loved deeply. So say it now. Learn from her life. Know the Good Shepherd and hear her say, thank you. Well, there's a prayer that Jesus taught his disciples. It is, as Bruce said, if you were ever a child, you probably heard this prayer. It's the Our Father. If you know it, I'd love you to say it with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Amen. Well, we've commended her spirit to the hands of a loving God. We will commend her body to its kindred dust. And it's now left to us to carry her memory forward and the lessons forward, to just work to make the world a better place, to let people know that they're loved, that they're seen, that they mean something. So we will leave this place with our last physical image of her. She will live on in stories and photographs. She will live on when the weather's just right, and you'll say, remember that trip. And you'll smile, and you'll cry, but your life is better. So, may God bless you. May God keep you. May you find healing in the stories. May you find healing in each other's presence and company. And may you know that you're loved. Thank you for being here today to send the service.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our services today. We want to thank all of you for being here, supporting the family with your presence. But before we do leave, we want to give you the opportunity to pay your final respects. So if I could ask that we would start from the back, those who are standing and then those who are seated, come up the aisleway on your right. You can pay your respects, and then your time is your own. Thank you.